what have I done? What have I done? Why have I done this? This isn't just went bad. This has gone catastrophically wrong, and I'm a freak now. The only sensation I have is like deep pain. I kept having this phrase thrown at us, like, you're an ideal candidate for gender reassignment surgery. There was just like this desperate push to get us down this surgery.
And that was the last time you saw your own genitalia again, in male genitalia?
Yeah, it was probably the day before when I was going, what the f*** doing, I think.
The day before?
Yeah.
You said, what are you doing to yourself?
Yeah. I regretted it pretty much instantly. I just kind of looked like an animal had bitten at the area.
Did you really think about what it would feel like to wake up the next morning and not have anything?
No. No one's there to tell you, like, why it's gone wrong, or to really explain to you what the procedure is. They kept saying these lines like, oh, it'll give you decades of extra quality life, you'll be more congruent with your body, and you won't, you can wear leggings. It's not going to make your life longer. It's going to shorten it statistically. That's what we know from the research.
Welcome to another episode of the Truth-Unspoken. And we try to do something a little different today. We wanted to give a, truth shout out. We're going to play more of that video, but we just wanted to open it up with a shocking event of another victim, pretty much. We continue to cover how this is portrayed to be, to make people's lives happier, to make people's lives better and more efficient, and have a glorious, joyful life after you do the transgender surgeries. But that's a lie, and it's deception, and we're here to expose the lies with the truth. And in order to do that, we continue to find more and more data, more and more videos, more and more testimonials of people that have chosen to go down that road, but have realized that someone has deceived them, had realized that they had put their trust in the wrong people, trust in the doctors, trust in social media, trust in these ideals that are being promoted from behind the scenes, that this is to promote happiness and equality. And it's a lie. It's to promote money. It's to promote mutilization. Is to promote ways to destroy people's lives, actually, and shorten people's lives, all about a dollar bill. And so what we're doing is we're finding more and more people, which I said this last year, after exposing what happened with Chloe. I said there's going to be more and more people that are coming out. Yep. And that's what's happening. So that was a young man that we're going to watch more of his story. Yep. But it was him pretty much saying how he was guided. He was guided the entire time. And even the night before he did the actual surgery, he was feeling inside, I shouldn't do this. He was having second thoughts. What we call that is the spirit. This is a spiritual warfare between lies and deception from evil people that want to make money on chopping people up and making them believe they're going to be happy after they've been chopped up. Now, for me, I don't try to be offensive, but, a lot of the times the truth is, it's offensive. It's only offensive if there's insecurities, if there's things inside that you choose to believe that are not true. Most of the time, pride, that's where usually the truth offends. But if you're an honest person, and there's some people that they seek the truth, they want the truth, even if it doesn't make them feel comfortable, right? That's the type of person I am. Give it to me straight, give it to me real, give it to me as the truth, right? Don't sugarcoat it, don't lie, don't make it appear to be something that it's not. Just say what it is. And so for me, there's a lot of common sense involved to where, people have to start really looking at facts. There is no medical way that you can remove your genitals and it's going to be turned into a different genital and you're going to be happy. That's impossible. There is no procedure, there is no logic and a man removing his genitals or a woman removing her breast or being extra skin cut and shaved off of them to try to create another genital part. There's no logic in that at all that can end well. And we're seeing story after story to where the truth that we've already given about these doctors, about these pharmaceutical companies, and why they're targeting children. The age is younger and younger and younger, and the reason why is because they know that young children look for guidance. They look for protection. They look to adults to guide them and protect them. And so what's happened is the positions of that trust, like school teachers, like doctors, these are people that we've been taught to trust. And that's what's happening with a lot of these victims is they're trusting doctors, believing in doctors because they have a medical education, and the doctors are just plain out lying, and the insurance companies are plain out lying. The governor is plain out lying. These people are wicked and they're evil and they must be stopped. These people should be put in prison. When you're chopping people up and selling them a dream, you should be put in prison. Yep. How is that any different from fraud? Yeah, when you're teaching children that they're not what they are, what they were born, that it's a mistake, that's child abuse. Yep. So we need to start getting people that are sane back into our legislative offices and back into our schools. And we have the resolution is the stay-at-home inaugural. If we really push this, I mean, and we're getting down to the wire now. I think we only have like 30 people signed up, which is very disheartening. But I think that we're gonna start trying some more strategies. We need to start targeting and going to these school district meetings and alerting all the parents that are already there fighting for justice, and finding out who these people are so that they can join us and remove the kids, and then also building these schools. We have to build schools. We have to build academies. We have to build charter schools. We must do this in contrast to them forcing this upon our children and criminalizing and making us as parents that are trying to protect our parents, they're calling us terrorists because we don't want to accept you chopping our children up or making our children confused, believing there's something that they're not. Yep. And so, anyways, we got a lot of data. We got a lot more testimonials. We got, more being exposed, confirming things that have already been said. So these next several videos we're going to be shown in the next couple episodes is just confirmation of everything that we've been revealing since last October. And so the stay-at-home inaugural, I believe it starts in the September 30th. So next month, we got 6 weeks where we really need to put this information out, and we really need to, cause an impact in our state and across our nation, and join as many people as we can to understanding that the only thing these people recognize or even will acknowledge is money. If you're not talking about anything concerning money, they don't listen. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's your children's lives. It doesn't matter if it's our lives. They don't care about that. It's all about money. And so that's where we have to damage them, is in the financial system, in their pockets. Is when we take our children out, they don't receive money for that day. They don't receive money for that week. And then in the state census, right, which is on the 2nd of October, they'll see a big gap, and so that'll affect next year's funding. So this is really huge, and we need to get this word out. Please share the link. Please like the link, like the channel, to subscribe to us. But for me, the main thing is sharing it. Yeah. Please share the link, because we're and the website, so that we can get as many people as we can sign up in this. So we're gonna go forward with our data. We're gonna go forward with our videos. They're very heart tugging. Is disheartening to see people being abused and being abused legally. That is the biggest problem. Is that abuse and manipulation is legal now. And maybe it's been legal for a long time, but it used to be more hidden. But now it's just in our faces, and it's sad how our children are being targeted, young adults are being targeted, simple for the fact of money, of gaining money, and they do not care about these people's lives. They do not care about our children's lives, and so we need to expose this and join all the other people that are exposing it. But we have an actual remedy. It's more than exposing it. There's a lot of YouTubers out there, there's a lot of people out there that are for the righteous cause, but there's not really remedies. They're just exposing it. And so we're not only exposing it, but we're trying to create a solution, something to get attention. A fight back in this war for our children's and for the soul of America. We're in a war. If you don't know that, I pray to God that you wake up at some point in time. Because while we're at work, while we're trying to take care of our family, while we're paying our taxes, our children are being targeted by our own government, by our own state, by these corporations, by insurance companies. They're all in it together. The doctors. When we have another video where doctors, he's exposing what's going on in hospitals. It's in his hospital, and he was charged with federal charges for exposing it.
Yeah.
So we got a lot that we need to show. So we're gonna go ahead and play the young man, his story of what took place, and pray that you guys are able to pay attention and hear what's being said.
You have put all your faith and reliance onto these medical practitioners, then you're going to end up believing exactly what they're saying. And over the course of the years, I most certainly believed in what they were telling us, that I was an ideal candidate for gender reassignment surgery. And I submitted to that idea. And that is a regret in itself. I regret trusting them. I really do.
Just explain a bit, just as the sort of broad view of your own story of transitioning, of gender dysphoria, and the surgery that you eventually underwent.
Yeah, of course. So I entered the NHS services in my early 20s with a lot of mental health issues. One of them, the main problem that I had was a very high level of obsessive compulsive disorder and undiagnosed autism. I had a lot of difficulties in school, just growing up in general, feeling alien, all the issues that these sort of things can bring to a person. And by the age of 25, I'd found gender dysphoria online, and to me, it fit all those markers of everything I'd been through perfectly. And from the second that obsession took over, there was no challenge, no question. It was just, yes, you are, because you say you are. And because you're a bit like us, actually, then you definitely are. And then I went to the medical professionals, and it just got worse. When I entered the gender clinic service in 2015 officially, the first question that asked me was, do you want surgery? And to be honest, I was really there for the help and the therapy. And I underwent a lot of therapy there. And by about 2.5 years into the therapy, the gender clinic were a little bit sick of us being on their books, as it were, because I kept refusing surgery, and then they give us the ultimatum, it's surgery or discharge. And by that point, because it was like 2.5 years in and I had a lot of professionals venerating my transsexual identity, I'd fully bought into the idea. And then I had the surgery in 2018 and instantly knew that that was not what I should have done. Not only did the surgery go wrong, I had a lot of bleeding, I've got urinary issues, pain, and I believe that to be like extraordinarily rare. But when I started recovering, I realized that there's a lot of people like this.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of getting silenced off, and we need safeguards, we need protection, just like every vulnerable person does in any situation. And that's That's a synopsis of my story.
Thank you for that. That's so helpful because it does just sort of lay a bit of a foundation for discussing these sorts of issues. I just wonder, Ritchie, when you say it was 2.5 years, in some ways that does feel like quite a long time. You know, in terms of considering your options, working out exactly how you felt about your own situation as well. You say also that, you know, that you did actually refuse the surgery a couple of times. What was it that convinced you? Why did you go along with it in the end?
There was a lot of people rooting for me, and every time I had brought up a challenge why I shouldn't have it, I got told that that was either some form of internalized transphobia, or eventually it got painted that things are going to get so bad anyway down below because the hormones have an impact to your genital area and your function anyway. And all these things were just getting weighed against me. Now, 2.5 years does sound like a long time, but when it's the first question you get asked straight away when you first enter, that's not a lot of time. And it starts with this expectation that's what you're there for. And for me, that was the biggest issue because I was naturally resisting that. And they just kept asking and asking and asking. And if you've got somebody who's got autism or any mental health issue and you have put all your faith and reliance onto these medical practitioners, then you're going to end up believing exactly what they're saying. And over the course of the years, I most certainly believed in what they were telling us, that I was an ideal candidate for gender reassignment surgery. And I submitted to that idea. And that is a regret in itself. I regret trusting them. I really do.
The other thing about this as well is the campaign is focusing on children and young adults. You were in your 20s, your mid-20s indeed, when you began this process, I suppose. You were 25, as you were outlining.
Yeah.
I just wonder if, you know, as we listen to that, 25 is by far and away, you were an adult at that point. But would you consider that you weren't equipped enough to kind of make these decisions? I suppose I'm trying to understand where the cutoff for somebody to be empowered to make these decisions should actually be.
Well, I think I would turn that back on you and say, at what age do safeguards not apply? You know, vulnerable people deserve safeguards. I was a vulnerable person and I did not get the safeguards that I deserved. That's what this is about. Age does not matter. It's all about how fit, how well you are, how capable of making a decision you are. And naturally, there is a lot of information on the case that I haven't made public that I'd wait to the things I'm saying, but because of the nature of what's going on, I can't say all these intricate details.
Sure.
But fundamentally, I think to answer that question, it would be every adult, every vulnerable person, regardless of the age, deserves protection, that deserves safeguards.
In your view, Ritchie, and we'll bring Laura in a sec, in your view, does anyone who is considering themselves as having gender dysphoria, are they automatically vulnerable in that position?
I would say it really depends on the context of that individual's life, which is why we should not generalize these matters whatsoever. We need to take a holistic individual approach. For instance, somebody who has gender dysphoria and manages quite well with no existing comorbidities should be able to sail through that process without any problems. But someone with addiction issues, multiple mental health issues and undiagnosed autism, things like that, that puts you in a very vulnerable position.
Yeah.
And that makes it very difficult to say no to.
Stay with us, Ritchie. Let's bring in Laura Preston, a lawyer at Slater and Gordon. Laura, just explain the challenge that is going forward here in terms of bringing in the safeguards that Ritchie has been outlining are required. What is currently missing, I suppose, from current laws that has created this cause for concern?
Morning. Just to be clear, I'm not the lawyer bringing that specific challenge. I'm representing Ritchie in his medical negligence case.
Sure.
So that's slightly distinct. But the lawyer who is proceeding and trying to challenge the law is essentially looking at the situation and arguing that there aren't adequate legal safe checks in place and that the system, in a wider sense, hasn't been able to protect people adequately in this area.
What does that mean specifically, that in terms of, in reality, you know, the safeguards, the checks, etc.? What does that mean?
Okay, well, in terms of how the process has come about, the CAS review, which was focused on specific NHS clinics and published in the media last March, was led by Dr. Hilary Cass, and she looked at the treatment pathways that people with gender dysphoria and who'd been going to gender clinics had been progressing along. And from that review and around that time, there was a well-publicised case led by the lawyer who's trying to bring about the judicial review, that's Paul Conrath, which involved Kay Rebel. And within the arguments in that case, and the judgment has been published, it's lengthy, the key focus really is around more stringent evaluation and assessments within the clinical setting, making sure that they're standardised. But also one aspect that any legal challenge might look at is whether there ought to be the involvement, certainly for children and young adults or vulnerable people, as Ritchie was talking about, of courts like the Court of Protection, who are involved in protecting people in those vulnerable situations in other legal scenarios. So there's quite a myriad of aspects that will need to be looked at. But that's where it's coming from. I hope that sets things out a bit more clearly.
That is really, really helpful, Laura, and thank you for that. Ritchie, I just want to put a final and just consideration to you. When you think about the time that you spent living as Abby, how do you feel about that time now?
I mean, there was certainly, the way I feel about it, the initial transition, and for the first few years, I wasn't even really that bothered about the hormones and stuff, you know. I was, as I said, I was a little bit older, so I'd been through puberty and stuff. So the physical impact from that was less severe. But for me, it gave us that bridge from that really dark place I was in to get to be where I needed to do now. But at the end of the day, I felt like I was naturally coming out of that in about a few times, 2015, 16 and 17. And I was naturally trying to escape that because I'd kind of got what I wanted from it. So I'm very much not against transition as a whole. I'm very, very strictly, I suppose I'm advocating for safeguards, not to take away any treatment. I would feel horrified if any treatment got taken away, because that's not what this is about. This is about reinforcing and adding in and making sure that that care is appropriate, you know?
Yeah, so that's sad, number one. And actually, I think in his actual interview, it's an hour long, so we couldn't play, but the very first video we played was him at an older age.
Yeah, it'll be in the comments.
Yeah, at an older age, and he definitely is 100% against it in his older ages. So at that time, what we just watched is he was still going through the court case, but the video that played in the very beginning, it goes into a lot more detail. If you want to take the time to go and watch the video, it's pretty eye-opening more. But we just want to give the background, the story of the regret. And so now we also have another video where the guy that interviewed him in the first video had another teen. Oh, this is what I want to point out. Is it started as a minor. So when the seeds are planted, if you listen to his language about, he submitted to the idea, he submitted to the thought, he submitted to their suggestions, he put his faith in the doctors, and that's what we want to break down. Is if you don't put your faith in the Lord, and you put your faith in man, you're gonna be destroyed, and especially. What's happening is people are putting their faith in people, and people are lying. So when you put all your faith and you put all your hope into someone that's specifically there to deceive you, there's nothing but destruction. And so that is what this is about, is this pointing out that these people are not telling the truth, and that they have an agenda, and their agenda is money. And their agenda is plant the seeds in the children. That's through social media, that's through school now, or it's been through school, but it's just getting more and more out of control. It's through psychiatrists, medical, it's through entertainment, Disney. So everywhere you turn, they're putting these seeds in children of identity confusion and identity deception, so that they can get them in a room to chop them up and get a paycheck. That is the summary of what we're seeing, and we're seeing it through our whole nation. Now, there are states that are fighting back, like in Oklahoma. They demanded that they have to start putting the Bible in the school teaching.
Ten Commandments.
No, that's Louisiana. Yeah, Louisiana is putting in the law. They have to put the 10 Commandments in the classrooms. See, so there's a war. It depends on where you're at and what you have to fight. We're all fighting the same war, but we're not all fighting it the same way. We're not all aware of it, and that's what we're here to do. And so the next video that we have is actually someone watched I think he's a teenager. He watched the first interview of the kid we just watched, and his interviewer, and it scared him. He was on that path, and after listening to what happened, he backed out. And so it is good to expose these things, and the more that we get out there, what we want to do is what he talked about, safeguard and protecting. That's what we want to do. Yeah. We want to safeguard and protect people in their minds, and people that may be watching this and you're vulnerable. Please do not listen to these people. Please do not put your faith in it. So when he really went to Planned Parenthood, he really went to get therapy. That's what he really went to get. But from the day that he got there, they were pushing the surgery. So for 2.5 years, he's trying to get therapy, but they're continuing to push the surgery to where you heard where it got to the point to where if he wasn't getting the surgery, they're just discharging him. So that's the attitude. If you're not gonna do this, get out of here. We don't want to have nothing to do with you. How can that be about equality?
And how's that helping them?
Yeah, how can that be about giving somebody a joyous life? You either let us chop you up or get away from here. And if you do get chopped up and you have complications, don't contact us, because there's nothing we can do. That's the attitude. And if you did get chopped up and you want help on trying to retract or go backwards, we stop replying. We stop communication. That's the truth. That's what's going on. And so we have more and more stories about this. So let's go ahead and play the other video.
Good news for those of you who watched and enjoyed the interview I did on this channel, Heretics, with Ritchie Herron, the detransitioner. Now, unfortunately, detransitioning isn't a real thing. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, unfortunately, but you can become de-radicalized from a cult. Ideally, though, we de-radicalize before true damage is done. In that sense, the trans ideology is one of the world's most harmful cults. When you join Scientology, you may spend a lot of your money, but you're unlikely to do something anywhere near as drastic and irreversible as cutting off your genitals. That's why I'm so pleased to hear that at least one person who watched our interview has been put off from doing the surgery. As a direct result of watching the interview on Heretics, which is a viral sensation now with 600,000 views in the first few days, this person has put their scheduled surgery on hold. For those of us who are not doctors or soldiers, this is as close as it might get to saving a life, and you played your part in that. I'm going to show you the comment that Ritchie brought to my attention, but first let me ask you, as I forgot to do it in the interview itself, to please subscribe to this channel, because it helps tell YouTube my content is good and worthwhile, and because it makes them think twice about trying to demonetize me or ban me for shedding light on this cult as they've done before. So hit that subscribe button down below and the like button. Although I used to read and reply to every single comment, that becomes impossible with videos getting hundreds of thousands of views. I do skim read from time to time and manage to catch comments that intrigue me, but I miss a lot of them. So I'm pleased Ritchie brought this one to my attention. It's quite possibly one of many, but it's great to see how pleased Ritchie was to find this one. It gives him a sense of purpose, which is so important given what happens to him, and the fact that there is no going back. So here is the comment. I'm going to bring it up. Hello, Ritchie. Thanks for sharing your story. I sent this video to a friend who watched the video with her 18-year-old trans son. He is scheduled for bottom surgery in less than a month. After listening to your story, he decided to cancel his surgery and wait a few more years to make sure that surgery is something he really wants to do. He also said that he's being pressured by his doctor at the gender clinic to do the surgery now. His doctor said, you're 18 now and nobody can stop you. You don't have to tell your family about the... And then I haven't seen what goes on with the read more there. But that is truly, truly frightening. Firstly, amazing that they're going to put this on hold with the bottom surgery. For those of you who don't know, bottom surgery is the word. It is a bit euphemistic. And I think that's scary, by the way, as well. Obviously, neuro-linguistic programming is a vital part, a key cog in the cult machine. And the euphemistic language, we've seen it in all kinds of far left and far right political regimes as well. We see things like re-education, and it's like that means something a little bit more devious than that. You've used a nice word, but actually you're saying horrible things. And there are all sorts of words in cultish language. A suppressive person in Scientology just sounds like they're a bit suppressive, but really the things you do fair game to them, or fair gaming is pretty horrific. It's a way of vengeance on these people who don't believe in Scientology. So they've dressed that up, bottom surgery. Really what it means is, you know what it is. It's castration, isn't it? This is what Ritchie said. I'll pop that to the side. I'm getting good at this whole YouTube game. 18-year-old pressured into bottom surgery, cancels after watching my Heretics interview with Andrew. And if they ever see this, that doctor is a massive red flag. And yes, they push. They always push. I want to know why. I too want to know why, what is going on there. And there's all sorts of things flying around the internet around. And I don't want to delve too much into things that I can't necessarily prove. I always try to stay, as much as I'm against the mainstream and against a lot of the narratives of the mainstream, I don't want to just go willy-nilly into any kind of conspiracy terrain. But it has been said, particularly in the States, that a lot of money is swirling around. That doesn't mean that people are necessarily evil and going, wahaha, the money. I think what happens is they're incentivized because of the money and because of the status and because of the kudos that comes from being a surgeon who gets to transition, which isn't a real thing. You can't transition someone, obviously, but do that kind of surgery on a child. And I think that is how their beliefs form. We know that beliefs don't necessarily form based on a pursuit of honesty and accuracy and truth. Our beliefs form on what makes us feel good. And that's the scariest thing. It's a benign dictator who thinks they know what is good for you. So this is true. I've also been reading, of course, at the moment about Jeff Younger, that case, the man whose child wants to transition, although it looks more like his wife wants that. So the dad can't stop it happening, can't get hold of the son. It's the ex-wife who is saying, oh, let's do it, and saying, oh, he likes to just pee through his hole. He doesn't need a willy. It's mad and maddening, and the doctors are pushing for this to happen as well. And the judge isn't looking into whether transitioning is safe. This is the maddest thing. They're not looking into if transitioning is safe and reasonable, but rather weighing up which parent is the nicer parent or the better parent, and they're going to go with that ex-wife. I just know it. So again, that's another reason that this is such a win, that we got somebody in the comments who has put off their surgery because of what Ritchie said, the truth he told about his surgery. Now, that's just the one comment I've seen. There may be many others, and many who didn't even comment because they'd rather keep this private. I know if I were in this situation, I wouldn't want to just put out comments and things like that. So that is a way that Ritchie is providing a huge public service, and so are you guys, because so many of you not only watched, but shared, shouted about hit the like, all the stuff, because you know how important Ritchie's message was. So all of us, we saved at least one life today. Let's keep it up, because this is a destructive ideology and there is no going back.
Now, there's a lot of verbiage in there that I like that he used. The cult ideology, transgender cult. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And one thing that I don't agree when he said he doesn't think it is evil, I believe 100% it's evil, and that's why I'm pointing it out with the scriptures, because he's saying that they're using incentives of money for doctors to intrigue them. Yeah, so in order to chop someone up for an incentive of money, you have to be evil. And the Bible is very clear that for the love of money is the root of every kind of evil. So I'm going to clarify that, I don't think he's a believer, but it's very clear in the Word of God that those are the type of people that are doing this. And I'm going to give more scripture today proving that more. So this is also not a conspiracy, and I don't like to jump into lanes that are conspiring or or make believe or have truths. No, this is the truth, and the scriptures points that out. These same exact type of people. So these doctors are evil. These politicians are evil. These teachers are evil. These insurance companies are evil. They are all evil. And the reason why they're evil, he said that he's not from America, obviously. So I'm an American, so I can speak on it and let him know. Yeah, there's millions and billions circulating around this, and that's not a conspiracy. Yeah, million per child, or I think it was 1.4 or something like that, over $1 million. If the younger they can get them, the more they can make. So if they can get them, that's why That's why it is now. Think about this. If you're a school district and you refuse this cult ideology, right? You're fined.
Yeah, that was 1.5.
Yeah. The Temecula School District was being threatened to be fined $1.5 million by Governor Newsom if they did not put the transgender ideology into the school curriculum. That is not a political statement. That's pure evil.
Yep.
We're gonna take money from the children's education, which they need to be learning about math. They need to be learning about science. They need to be learning about things that's gonna help them grow and be successful adults in our society. But we're gonna fine you if you do not put this cultic ideology, which stems from money. You don't think that Governor Newsom is getting a kickback on all of those surgeries? You don't think that there's investors that are getting kickbacks? You don't think these doctors are getting checks? They're getting extra checks? You have, and we've already proven this, you have doctors that are not even educated or professionalized in this type of surgery, and they're leaving their field to come and do this.
Yeah.
You have, I told you about the eye doctor that I know that he's one of the top in the world, and he was at a meeting full of eye doctors, and the topic of the education was these transgender surgeries. And he had to stand up and say, "We're eye doctors. We're not educated in that field. We're not professionals in that field." And the response was, "Well, we can be." So you can't explain that that's not evil. To where you have, so then you also have, okay, if you're not educated in that field, how are you going to perform that surgery? Oh, it's just because it's about a paycheck. That's why. So this is open to all doctors. That's what this is. This is an incentive. They're open it to every field outside of cosmetic surgery. So a heart doctor can go start removing genitals, and that's not what his expertise are. A foot doctor can start removing genitals and removing breasts just because they have a doctor's. That's what's going on. Yeah. And this is not an opinion, and this is not conspiracy. This is happening, and we're going to show on the next episode. We're going to show a doctor that's revealing these things. He was an action doctor, and he's being charged from the Hippo Act of being a whistleblower who works in the hospital and is saying what they're doing, how they're injecting 10 and 11-year-old children without their knowledge while they're going to the hospital for something else, and they're being injected with hormones. They're being injected with hormone blockers. Yeah, and he's a doctor, and he said I couldn't with good conscience not say anything. And then he had federal agents at his door, at his home doorstep. Yeah, so these are not conspiracies. This is real.
Right.
And the more people wake up to it, the more we're able to do something about it. Okay, so I want to end with this scripture in Proverbs. Proverbs 26. Okay, what?
Colossians 2:8.
Okay, Colossians 2:8. Well, we'll save the Proverbs one.
Do that next.
Okay, yeah, we'll do the Proverbs one in the next episode. Colossians 2:8 says, see to it that no one carries you off as a spoil or makes you yourselves captive by his so-called philosophy and intellectualism and vain deceit, idle fancies, and plain nonsense. That is what we're dealing with.
Plain nonsense.
Plain nonsense and so-called philosophy. So this whole ideology cult is coming from a philosophy of if you join or if you're feeling this way or if you have these thoughts, then you are transphobic and you need to get chopped up. That's the bottom line. You have these feelings, you feel this way, we have the remedy. We're going to chop you up.
Yeah.
We're going to cut you open. We're going to remove your genitals. We're going to remove body parts, and you're going to be happy.
Yeah.
That's called nonsense, plain ignorance. But it says, the scriptures say, so when you hear the young man say, I put my faith in,
Yep.
that's because of unawareness of this. See, the scriptures say, make sure you don't put your faith in these type of people. It says, see to it that no one carries you off as a spoil. That young man has been a spoil of the war that are destroying lives. And the people that are there to make money, and I listed them already, the doctors, the legislators, the insurance companies, the teachers, the district managers, the educators, those are the people that are getting the spoil every time they chop someone up. So our scriptures teach us, make sure you don't listen to those people. Make sure you don't put your faith in their philosophy.
Right.
See, but when you don't have any awareness of this, that's what happens. So we're here to give the truth and protection from scripture, teaching people to teach your children. That's why we got to get God and scriptures back into our schools. Because they teach our children. When that adult comes and tries to tell you something opposite of mommy and daddy have taught you, don't listen to them. When they're trying to tell you, don't trust mommy and daddy, don't listen to mommy and daddy, lie to mom and daddy and listen to us, we have to teach our children, do not trust them. It says, following human tradition, men's ideas of the material rather than the spiritual world. These are men's ideas, evil men, evil women. Remember the scriptures say, for the love of money is the root to every evil. So that guy that was the guy that was talking before, God bless him on his mission of exposing. But we do know there is a truth. We do know, hey, no, this is evil. And we're not putting it up to assumption or conspiracy. No, this is evil. And it says just crude notions following the rudimentary and elemental teachings of the universe and disregarding the teachings of Christ the Messiah. So when they go into this cosmos and, what they're saying is God made a mistake. Do you feel like you're a girl? Do you feel like you're a boy and you're opposite? They're saying God made a mistake. And they're saying we don't believe in God, but trust and believe in our philosophy. Trust and believe that we'll make you happy after we chop you up to pieces. You'll have a great, happy life. And common sense says, if you remove my genitals, I don't know how I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
So it's nonsense. It's flattery of deceit and deception. Well, I pray that eyes were open. I pray that this gets shared. I pray that, we're able to connect. Maybe we need to reach out to our guy and let him know what we're doing, and let him know about this stay home inaugural. Like, we got to start connecting with these fellow people that are fighting that are like-minded, that are fighting in this war to save children, to save adults, to save people, vulnerable people. That the young man was vulnerable. And so he put his faith in the doctors, and that's what the doctors gave him. A life of mutilated pain for the rest of his life.
Medication the rest of his life.
Yep. So please stay tuned for the next episode. We got more data. We got more testimonials. We got more revealing, more revelation coming out. And we need you to stay tuned and share the link. And God bless you and have a good evening.